On a quiet afternoon road, golden fields stretching endlessly under the sun, everything felt still. Then, a young black journalist racing toward the biggest story of his life saw a wreck ahead. Inside, a pregnant woman fighting for her life. His phone kept ringing, his future slipping away. Moments later, he made a choice no one expected. What followed uncovered a truth no one could hide, and a miracle only God could write. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from. The noon sun lay soft over the cornfields of Ashbury, Georgia, and the empty two-lane road stretched forward like a quiet promise. Malik Carter, 27, a young black journalist with sharp eyes and a restless mind, drove faster than he should. Years of chasing small stories had hardened him, but also left him hungry for one real chance. Today was that chance. A meeting with a key witness who could expose corruption at the highest level in Ashbury. His phone buzzed. "Where are you?" 10 minutes. Malik glanced at it, jaw tightening. "I'm coming," he muttered, pressing the gas slightly harder. On the passenger seat, a thin folder held months of work, late nights, ignored calls, doors slammed in his face. He had earned this moment. Then something broke the rhythm of the road. A dark SUV sat twisted near the ditch, smoke rising slowly into the still air. Malik's foot eased off the pedal. "Not now," he whispered. For a second, he kept rolling. The road ahead was still clear. He could pretend he hadn't seen it. Someone else would stop. Someone always did, right? His phone buzzed again. 5 minutes. Malik's grip tightened. His heart began to pound not from fear, but from the weight of what this moment demanded. Then he saw it. Movement inside the SUV. A hand, weak and shaking, pressing against the cracked window. Everything inside him went silent. Malik swore under his breath and slammed the brakes. The car skidded slightly before stopping on the roadside. He sat there for half a second, breathing hard, staring at the wreck like it might disappear if he waited long enough. It didn't. The phone buzzed again. This time, he didn't even look. He pushed the door open and stepped into the heat. The air smelled like metal and dust. The fields stretched endlessly around him. No people, no houses, no help. Only him. Malik ran. As he reached the SUV, the scene sharpened in brutal detail. Cracked glass, blood on the door, and inside, a woman, Nina Holloway, around 30, pale and shaking, her dark hair clinging to her face. Even in pain, there was something composed about her, someone used to holding herself together. One hand clutched her swollen belly. Pregnant. Her eyes fluttered open and found Malik. "Help," she whispered. Malik dropped beside the door. "Hey, I've got you," he said quickly, forcing calm into his voice. "Stay with me. Stay with me." His mind split. One side calculated damage, danger, time. The other whispered something far louder. "You're losing everything." The phone buzzed again in his pocket, relentless now, like a countdown. Malik closed his eyes for a brief second. He saw the meeting. The story. The life he had been chasing. Then he saw something else. A woman dying on an empty road. A child who would never be born. Malik opened his eyes. That was enough. He grabbed the door handle and pulled. It didn't move. He tried again, harder this time. Metal groaned but held. Come on, he muttered. Nina's fingers weakly caught his sleeve. "My baby." Malik froze for a fraction of a second. Then his voice softened. I know. I'm here. I'm not leaving." And for the first time that day, his voice carried no doubt. The phone buzzed again. Malik ignored it. Instead, he braced himself, planting his feet firmly against the dirt, and pulled with everything he had. Between the future he had been chasing and the life right in front of him, Malik Carter chose to stay. Malik's hands trembled as the car door finally gave way with a harsh metallic crack, the sound echoing across the empty fields like something breaking far deeper than steel. He leaned in carefully. "I'm going to get you out, okay?" His voice was steady now, even if his heartbeat wasn't. Nina barely nodded, her strength slipping with every breath. Up close, he could see how pale she had become, lips dry, eyes fighting to stay open. Blood traced a thin line along her temple, but it was the way she clutched her stomach that tightened something inside him. "Stay with me," he whispered, more to himself than to her. Malik slid one arm behind her shoulders, the other supporting her legs as best he could without hurting her. She cried out softly when he moved her, the sound cutting through him, but he didn't stop. The world had narrowed to this moment just him, her, and the fragile life she carried. By the time the ambulance sirens reached them, distant at first, then growing louder, Malik's shirt was soaked with sweat and streaked with blood. He waved them down, relief flooding through him so suddenly it almost made his knees give out. Two paramedics rushed out. One of them, a woman in her late 30s with sharp, focused eyes and dark hair tied tightly back, paramedic Lisa Grant, a veteran known for staying calm in chaos. After years working high-risk emergency routes, knelt beside Nina immediately. "What happened?" she asked, already checking Nina's pulse. "Car crash," she was conscious, fading in and out. "She's pregnant," Malik said quickly. Lisa nodded, impressed by how clear he sounded. "Good. You did right pulling her out." Her partner, a tall man in his 40s named Eric Dawson, broad-shouldered and quiet, began setting up equipment with practiced speed. They moved Nina onto a stretcher. Her grip suddenly tightened around Malik's wrist, surprising him. "Don't leave," she whispered. Malik hesitated for half a second. He could still walk away now. The ambulance had arrived. His part was done. But something in her eyes, fear, yes, but also something deeper, something that felt like trust given too quickly and yet completely held him there. "I'm coming with you," he said. Lisa glanced at him briefly, then nodded. "Get in." Inside the ambulance, the world became a blur of motion and sound. Machines beeped steadily. The road beneath them hummed. Malik sat beside Nina, one hand still loosely held in hers, as Lisa worked with quick precision. "Blood pressure rising," Eric muttered. Lisa frowned slightly. "Stay with me, Nina. Can you hear me?" Nina's eyes fluttered open again, unfocused, drifting. Then they found Malik. For a moment, everything else faded. "Listen," she whispered, her voice thinner now, fragile like glass about to crack. Her fingers tightened weakly around his. Malik leaned closer. "I'm here." Her lips trembled. "Don't let them know. The baby is alive." The words barely formed, but they landed heavy. Malik froze. "What?" he whispered, but her eyes were already slipping shut. Lisa stepped in quickly. "She's losing consciousness. Stay back." Malik leaned away, heart racing for a completely different reason now. Her words echoed in his mind, strange and unsettling. "Don't let them know the baby is alive." Who were they? The ambulance sped forward, sirens cutting through the afternoon like a warning no one else understood. Minutes later, they burst into the emergency bay of Ashbury General Hospital. Nurses and doctors rushed forward, voices overlapping, hands moving quickly as they took Nina from the stretcher. "Possible trauma. Late-stage pregnancy, monitor fetal vitals," Lisa called out as they wheeled Nina inside. Malik stood frozen just outside the swinging doors, suddenly useless. The doors shut. Silence followed. For the first time since he stopped the car, Malik became aware of everything he had lost. His phone. Still buzzing. He pulled it out slowly. Several missed calls. Messages stacked one after another. "You didn't show. This was your only shot. I'm done waiting." The last message sat there like a final verdict. Malik stared at the screen, his chest tightening. Months of work. Gone. Just like that. He let out a slow breath, leaning back against the wall. For a moment, doubt crept in. Had he just thrown everything away? Time passed without him noticing. Minutes, maybe longer. The hospital sounds blurred together, footsteps, distant voices, the hum of machines. Then the doors opened. A doctor stepped out. Dr. Helen Brooks, mid-40s, calm and composed, with the kind of presence that steadied a room without effort, removed her gloves as she approached him. "You came in with her?" she asked. Malik nodded. Dr. Brooks gave a small, tired smile. "You did the right thing." He didn't speak. She continued, softer now. "Both the mother and the baby are stable." The words landed gently, but they changed everything. Malik closed his eyes briefly. Not failure, not loss. Something else entirely. When he opened them again, the weight in his chest felt different. He had missed his chance. But somehow, he hadn't made a mistake. Morning light slipped through the tall hospital windows, pale and quiet, as if the world outside had no idea something irreversible had already begun. Malik sat in a hard plastic chair, the same one he hadn't left for hours. His body ached in dull, quiet ways, but it was his mind that refused to rest. The message on his phone still lingered like a ghost. "You didn't show. I'm gone." Owen Pike, his one chance, was gone. Malik rubbed his face slowly. Months of work had vanished in a single decision. And yet, the image of Nina's hand gripping his sleeve refused to fade. "Mr. Carter?" He looked up. A man in his early 50s stood near the doorway, posture straight, suit perfectly pressed, despite the early hour. Daniel Reeves, hospital legal advisor, known for handling sensitive cases quietly, had the kind of calm that came from years of managing problems no one else wanted to touch. "She's awake," Daniel said simply. "She asked for you." Malik stood without thinking. Inside the room, the air felt different still, controlled, like something important was being protected. Nina lay against white sheets, color slowly returning to her face. Without the chaos of yesterday, she looked different, stronger, not fragile, controlled. Her eyes lifted when Malik entered. For a second, neither of them spoke. "You stayed," she said quietly. Malik gave a small shrug. "Didn't seem right to leave." A faint smile touched her lips, but it didn't last long. Her hand moved instinctively to her stomach, checking, feeling reassuring herself. "They told me," she whispered. "She's okay." Malik nodded. "Yeah, you both are." Silence settled between them again, but this time it wasn't empty. Nina studied him carefully. Not like someone judging, more like someone trying to understand a decision that didn't make sense in a world where people rarely stopped for strangers. "Why?" she asked. Malik leaned back slightly, arms crossing. "Because you were there." Nina shook her head faintly. 17 cars passed before you. The number landed heavier than expected. Malik didn't answer. Her gaze softened. "Most people don't choose like that. Most people don't think about it long enough," he replied. That almost made her laugh. But then her expression changed. Something shifted. "You need to listen carefully," Nina said, her voice lowering. "Steady now. Not weak. Not afraid. Focused." Malik straightened slightly. "That crash," she continued, "wasn't an accident." He frowned. "What?" "They forced me off the road," she said. "I was being followed." The room seemed to tighten around the words. Malik stared at her. "Why would anyone?" "Because of what I have." Before he could respond, she reached slowly toward the bedside drawer. Daniel Reeves, who had remained quietly near the door, stepped forward instinctively, but Nina gave him a brief look, one that said, "Let me do this." Daniel stopped. Nina pulled out a small black encrypted drive. It looked insignificant, ordinary, but the way she held it made it anything but. Malik felt his pulse rise. "What is that?" Nina met his eyes directly now. "The truth your city buried." The words settled into him like a key finding its lock. "What do you mean?" Malik asked, though something inside him already knew. Nina exhaled slowly. "My father was Judge Elias Holloway." Malik froze. The name hit instantly. Elias Holloway, the judge who had built his reputation on exposing corruption at every level. The man who had died 3 years ago in what was officially ruled an accident, but never felt like one. "You're his daughter," Malik said, disbelief clear in his voice. Nina nodded. "He didn't die by chance." The room felt colder. "He was building a case," she continued. "A network. Officials, contractors, money flowing where it shouldn't. He got too close." Malik's mind began connecting pieces before she even finished. "And now," he said slowly. Nina lifted the drive slightly. "I have everything he found, and everything they tried to erase after he died." Malik stared at it. This wasn't just a story. This was the story. The one he had been chasing without knowing. It had been right in front of him the entire time. His missed meeting. His lost opportunity. It all shifted in meaning. "You're telling me," Malik said quietly, "that everything I've been working toward is right here," Nina finished. Outside, somewhere in the hospital, a cart rattled past. Life continued, unaware of the weight inside this room. Malik ran a hand through his hair, trying to process it. "They tried to kill you for this?" Nina didn't hesitate. "Yes." The simplicity of her answer made it worse. Malik looked at her again. Really looked. Not as a victim. Not as a stranger. But as someone carrying something dangerous enough to change everything. And suddenly, this wasn't just about a story anymore. You could go to the police, he said. Nina gave a faint, tired smile. Some of them are already part of it. That answered everything. Silence stretched between them again. But it felt different now. Heavier. More real. Nina's eyes softened as she watched him think. You can walk away, she said gently. You've already done more than enough. Malik let out a quiet breath. Walk away. That had been an option yesterday. Maybe it still was. But it didn't feel like one anymore. He looked at her. Then at the drive. Then back at her. For months, Malik said slowly. I thought I was chasing a story. Nina waited. He shook his head slightly. Turns out, I ran straight into it. A small silence followed. Then something subtle shifted between them. Nina's gaze changed, not distant anymore. Not guarded. Something closer. Not trust yet. But the beginning of it. And Malik felt it too. For the first time in a long time, he didn't just want to tell the truth. He wanted to protect it. And protect her. Rain came quietly that evening, tapping against the hospital windows like a soft warning the world refused to hear. Malik leaned against the corridor wall, holding 2 paper bags of takeout that had already gone slightly cold. He hadn't planned to come back. Not really. But something about leaving that room earlier had felt unfinished, like walking away mid-sentence. He pushed the door open gently. Nina looked up from the bed, surprised for a split second before something warmer replaced it. You came back. Malik lifted the bags slightly. Figured hospital food wasn't winning any awards. A small smile touched her lips, brief but real. It was the first time he had seen her smile without pain behind it. Careful, she said lightly. You're setting expectations. Malik hesitated, then sat down across from her, suddenly aware of how out of place he felt. Not in the room, but in the moment. He handed her one of the bags, avoiding her eyes for a second longer than necessary. She noticed, and for the first time she laughed soft, almost surprised by herself. You're nervous. I'm not nervous, Malik replied too quickly. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It lingered, stretched, and then settled into something easier, something human. But outside that room, the world hadn't stopped. Malik's phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again. Nina's expression shifted slightly. You should check that. Malik sighed, pulling it out. Unknown number, he answered. Hello? No voice. Just breathing. Then, you should have kept driving. The line went dead. Malik's grip tightened slowly around the phone. Nina watched him carefully. What is it? He didn't answer right away. He didn't want to make it real. Someone knows, he said finally. Nina didn't look surprised. That didn't take long, she murmured. A quiet understanding passed between them. They weren't safe. Not really. Later that night, Malik sat across from a small desk in an empty hospital office, the encrypted drive plugged into his laptop. The screen glowed in the dim light, reflecting in his tired eyes. Across from him sat Elena Cruz, early 30s, a cybersecurity specialist with sharp features and even sharper instincts. She had grown up in a system that failed her family, her father falsely accused, her mother forced to rebuild from nothing, and it had shaped her into someone who trusted data more than people. You weren't exaggerating, Elena said quietly, scrolling through the files. This isn't just corruption. This is organized. Malik leaned forward. How deep? Elena exhaled slowly. Deep enough that if this gets out the wrong way, people disappear. Malik didn't flinch. Good thing we're not doing it the wrong way, he said. Elena glanced at him, studying him for a second longer than necessary. Then she nodded. Back in Nina's room, the night had settled into a kind of stillness that felt fragile. Malik stood near the window, staring out at the rain. Nina watched him, her hand resting gently on her stomach. You can still walk away? She said softly. Malik shook his head. I passed that exit already. Nina smiled faintly. You always talk like that? Only when I'm trying not to panic. That made her laugh again, quiet, but genuine. Silence followed. But it wasn't empty. It was shared. Nina looked at him for a long moment, not analyzing, not questioning, just seeing him. If you hadn't stopped, she said slowly, her voice softer now. I wouldn't be here. Malik turned. She continued, almost like she was speaking more to the moment than to him. Neither would she. Her hand moved slightly over her stomach. The room seemed to hold its breath. Malik walked closer, stopping just beside the bed. For a second, he didn't speak. He just looked at her. Then he said quietly, If I hadn't stopped, I don't think I'd be here either. Nina frowned slightly. What do you mean? Malik let out a small breath, something almost like a laugh, but not quite. I would have gotten the story, maybe even made a name for myself. He paused, but I think I would have lost something bigger. Nina didn't interrupt. I just didn't know what it was until now. Their eyes met, and in that moment, something shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough. Enough to turn two people working toward the same goal into something more connected than that. Outside, the rain slowed. Inside, the distance between them disappeared not physically, but in all the ways that mattered. They weren't just allies anymore. They were choosing to stand together. Morning arrived clear and bright over Ashbury, the kind of light that revealed everything without mercy, as if the city itself could no longer hide what had been buried beneath it. Malik stood at the edge of the courthouse steps, the weight of the past days settling into something steady inside him. Around him, cameras clicked, reporters whispered, and the low hum of a city holding its breath filled the air. This was no longer just his story. It belonged to everyone now. Beside him stood Nina, dressed simply, her presence calm but unshakable. There was a quiet strength in her now, no longer just survival, but purpose. One hand rested gently over her stomach, as if reminding herself of what she had fought to protect. Elena Cruz stood a few steps behind them, arms crossed, watching the crowd with sharp, alert eyes. She had spent the entire night securing the data, duplicating files across systems no one could erase. Years ago, when her father had been wrongfully imprisoned, she learned one thing: truth only mattered if it couldn't be silenced. Everything's ready, Elena said quietly. Malik nodded. Across the steps, a group of officials began to shift nervously. Among them was Councilman Richard Hale, late 50s, a polished public figure whose calm smile had built a career hiding decisions that destroyed lives quietly. Years earlier, he had publicly supported Judge Elias Holloway, Nina's father, before quietly turning against him when the investigation got too close. Now, the mask was cracking. Malik stepped forward. No notes, no script, just truth. The people of Ashbury deserve to know, he began, his voice carrying further than he expected. For years, money meant for hospitals, schools, and public services has been redirected through a network of officials who believed no one would ever connect the dots. A ripple moved through the crowd. Behind him, Elena activated the display. Documents appeared: transactions, signatures, hidden accounts, each piece of evidence sharp, undeniable. Nina stepped beside him. My father tried to expose this, she said, her voice steady despite the history behind it. He died for it, and they called it an accident. Silence followed. Heavy, real. Councilman Hale shifted, his composure slipping just enough to reveal the fear beneath. This is a lie, he started, but his voice lacked its usual control. It's documented, Elena cut in calmly. Every transaction, every meeting, every cover-up. Sirens echoed in the distance. Not an alarm. A conclusion. Police vehicles pulled up, officers stepping out with purpose. Among them was Detective Marcus Hill, early 40s, broad-shouldered with a weathered face that spoke of years choosing between following orders and following his conscience. Once, he had turned away from a case tied to Holloway's investigation. Fear had won that day. Today, it didn't. He walked straight toward Hale. Richard Hale, Marcus said, voice firm. You're under arrest. The words landed like a final door closing. Cameras erupted. Voices rose. The truth, once buried, now stood in full daylight, where no one could deny it. Malik didn't move. He just stood there, breathing slowly. It was over. Or maybe, it was finally beginning. Weeks passed. Ashbury changed in small ways first, then larger ones. Investigations opened. Systems shifted. People who had once been invisible were finally heard. And Malik's name spread through the city. Interviews, recognition, opportunities he had once dreamed of. But none of that felt like the real reward. The real moment came quietly. In a hospital room filled with soft afternoon light, Nina lay resting, her face peaceful in a way Malik had never seen before. In her arms was a small bundle, tiny, alive, undeniable. A baby girl. Malik stepped closer, unsure of himself in a way that had nothing to do with fear. "She's perfect," he said softly. Nina smiled, tired but radiant. "She is." The baby shifted slightly, her small hand reaching outward, almost blindly. Malik hesitated, then offered his finger. Her hand wrapped around it instantly, firm, certain, like she had known him all along. Something inside Malik tightened, not with pressure but with meaning. Time moved forward, not rushed, not forced, just steady. And one afternoon, months later, under that same quiet sun, Malik stood once again on the road between the cornfields. But this time, there was no smoke, no broken glass, no impossible choice. Nina stood beside him, the baby resting peacefully in her arms. The wind moved gently through the fields, softer now, like it had nothing left to warn them about. Nina glanced at him, a small, teasing smile on her lips. "Looks like you missed the biggest appointment of your life." Malik looked at her, then at the child, then back at the endless road, and for the first time, he didn't see what he had lost. He saw exactly where he had arrived. "No," he said quietly. "I think I got where I was supposed to be." The wind carried the words across the fields, not as a warning, but as a promise. There are moments in life when everything seems to ask you one question. Will you choose yourself, or will you choose what is right? Malik thought he lost his future that day on that quiet road. But sometimes, what feels like a loss is actually a redirection. Because maybe, just maybe, God places us exactly where we need to be, not for what we want, but for who we are meant to become. A miracle doesn't always look like light from the sky. Sometimes it looks like a stranger stopping when everyone else keeps driving. Sometimes it looks like a life saved and another life beginning. And in our everyday lives, we are given these moments too. Small choices that don't seem important, but can change everything for someone else. So if this story touched your heart, take a second to share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment and tell us, what would you have done in Malik's place? And don't forget to subscribe, because every story you watch here carries a message, a reminder that kindness still matters, and miracles still happen. May God watch over you, guide your steps, and bless your life with the same unexpected grace. Because sometimes, the road you didn't plan to take is the one God chose for you all along.
If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Drop a comment and share your city with us. Join our growing family by subscribing to Every Paul Had a Story for more meaningful stories.